Stu, for joining. This is April 27th, and we're rebooting at 12:12, the weekly Zoom live call. And this is really to support people who are new to working from home or have been working home for a while, and this situation is like nothing we've ever experienced before. So I wanted to make myself available with 20 years of productivity experience. That's one of the cats, to be able to answer some questions and to make it even more rich experience. I've invited guests who are real gems in the world and in their expertise of what they do to add some more value and some different perspectives. And so I'm really thrilled to have Stu Saunders here. He's spoken to, that's not part of the plan. This is what happens though, right? When you work from home with everybody, your coworkers sort of getting in on the party. So Stu has worked with, I don't know, how many hundreds of thousands of kids have you spoken to with your
over the 30 years, we've worked with 3 million youth and educators.
Okay, millions. Yeah, it's incredible what you've done. And what I've noticed in the past few weeks is a need to pivot, like a lot of businesses, from in-person and event models to things online. So I know that that's a part of the discussion for a lot of people, is having to make changes and adapt. So I'd love, Stu, for you to share a little bit perhaps about, there's a few things I'd love to cover in this conversation. One is your perspective on, through your work with students and your rich understanding of their world, what's a student perspective right now on the challenges they're experiencing? Because a lot of the people that I support have kids at home, and they're wondering, how do they support their kids going through this? So what are the challenges and how can we support them?
Yeah, I would have had a different answer for you 6 weeks ago when this all started. And I think now that 6 weeks in, this is week 7 of us all being sequestered. And we're moving into this kind of new normal, which I don't know if I like that term, the new normal, because I don't know if this is really the new normal. I think it's just what we are right now.
I called it new abnormal. And I don't know what normal is anyway. Yeah, how long can you count on something being normal?
Right, exactly. So I think it's changed a lot, and I think what we did we saw some experiments happening in real time, and one of them, it was this transition of very quickly from school-based learning, building-based school-based learning, to online learning, which was a real struggle for some. Yeah. It was a struggle for a number of different reasons. It was a struggle because you either had teachers who were very tech savvy, who were very able to pivot their ability to teach, to instruct young people from afar. Then you have a group of teachers who just aren't tech savvy at all, never heard of Zoom or Facebook Live or Google Classrooms or all these different things people are using, and they're struggling to deliver what they want to deliver to their youth, because and then you've got this, so then you've got that's the educator component, and then you have this youth component, the student component, which is struggling to understand what the expectations are for them as students. Because there's all these mixed messages of this won't count, this can't hurt you, yada, 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 your marks can't go down, so on and so forth. So it really takes out the ability to incentivize young people to learn, and it puts it really squarely on the parents' shoulders, which is another struggle. So you've got 3 components: educators, students, and parents, because parents are now trying to be, in some ways, so you got some parents who are like super eager and super go-getting, and have downloaded every possible resource, and their 3-year-old child's watching TED Talks at 4 o'clock in the morning when their child's up doing parents up doing a workout.
Yeah, my friend in California, she's got 3 boys, the youngest of which I think just turned 12, and she's got a spreadsheet for each of them and all of their schedules. It's like there's an exercise in logistics here, which is
right.
This world.
Yeah. And then you've got the parents who are struggling because they're working in industries that are needed, right? They're in those essential industries. Yeah. And then you've got parents who have lost jobs, lost businesses, who are just dealing with their own mental health and struggling, trying to figure out how to pivot, create something new, or just stay alive, stay focused, get groceries, pay their bills, pay their mortgage. Yeah. And they can't really be responsible at this point for teaching their 12-year-old algebra. So these are real struggles, all different components. So it's so different for everybody.
And you know what's happening now that I've just sensed in my community? I had another message this morning. we're starting to experience the loss that COVID is becoming really real in terms of loss for a lot more people around the world. So you never know when some real big deal event is going to happen. And the interesting thing is this happens in life all the time anyway, but I'm hoping there's a bit more awareness that at any point in time, anybody could be overcome with the overwhelming emotion that's tied to this whole thing.
Sure. Absolutely. And it's emotional based. There's mental health issues for young people.
Yeah.
As you know, it's huge. I just heard the other day on an interview, it was with, gosh, sorry, it doesn't matter. But the point was that calls to helplines
Yeah.
in the last 4 weeks have been up 300%. And that goes to a lot of young people who are desperately trying to find support because their parents are struggling. They don't have that network of support at home, at school, sorry, that they, or at home, either or. They lost it at school and they don't have it at home.
Exactly, because those networks too, they kind of worked in a way which might have been based on proximity, and you bump into someone and then you have the
Mhm.
conversation. So this whole shift, whether it's a work conversation or a personal conversation, requires much more intentionality around communication.
Yeah,
And then we can have the challenges like we had, connecting. So there's a real barrier, if you will, to naturally just happening upon someone and being able to display empathy and be supportive.
yeah. And to know what they're going through. I mean, there's also another group, the other side of that is there's the introverts. There's those that are so excited to work from home. They love being at home. They're so grateful to be at home. There's students who are grateful not to be at school because maybe they're so introverted they're bullied at school. Perhaps they haven't got a big friend social group at school. They feel pressures of trying to be fit in or not fit in, and now they don't have that. It's taken away. I have one of the people in one younger person in my family is super happy and super grateful this is happening, and doesn't want to go back to school, which is an interesting thing for you talking about working from home.
Mhm.
Is there's going to be the part of the new normal, I think, and we keep saying that I didn't what this new normal is, but people that are proving they can work from home, they are proving that they are capable of doing their jobs from home. And so when this eventually goes back, and it will go back to what it was, in some way, shape, or form before March 13th,
Mhm.
which is kind of that switch that happened on March 13th, is who's going to want to go back to a cubicle based building? Who's going to want to go back to that big environment of communal working when you don't have to because you've
Yeah.
proven you can't.
You've
You
you've
can.
now got a whole set of people that have experimented with it, and what I'm hoping is my whole mission around this is that more people will find a way to make it successful and not get stuck in some of the things that make it challenging. And
Mhm.
for example, one of them being not being able to set boundaries on working from home because it's always there, and so running into an overwork situation
Mhm.
potentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, you raised that. I wrote a blog post last week actually because I left the corporate world 12 years ago solely because my boss was not on board with me working 2 days a week from home, even though 90% of my job was on the phone, like 3-hour conference calls after the other kind of thing. And I'm hoping she's listening, and I'm hoping her mindset shifted now to embrace this, because if you're working for someone who doesn't believe in it, what a challenge that is, because you're going to have potentially trust issues, micromanaging, all kinds of things can come in to protect, sort of get in the way of a success at this time. But you're right. I think it's going to open up what I think is where we should all be, is catering to individuals as human animals with the preferences that really set them up for success. And so understanding which kids want a mixture of online learning and which kids need one-on-one support and which kids thrive in a classroom. Maybe there's some re-sculpting that we can do for work and educational environments after this.
I think we've known for a long time that human beings aren't robots. And one thing that makes us amazing as human beings is that we're not all robots, that we're not all, clones of the same DNA. Like we all have our own. There are some people that will absolutely love working from home and living and doing schooling from home. And there's others that you said that won't. And then there's some who will have kind of a hybrid of the two.
Yeah, and what most of what I've read is people prefer both. They like the community and they like interaction, but especially with the shift to open concept working environments, they can't think in the office. So just like Richard, who's on the line, taking a day to do uninterrupted, deep focused time so that you can actually concentrate on the work that you want to do, which an open concept offices and hotel environments in particular is really, really tough. So
Yeah. There's parts I miss about it, and part. I mean, we run a summer camp, we run large scale events, so that I don't know how to. We're doing an online summer camp right now. It's it's wonderful, and for the kids to come to it, it gives them structure, and I think that's one thing that kids need is structure, and we can provide that 3 times a day for them, and it's all free. We just do it for fun, for free. But I mean, then there's kids who are just like they're just they're just at the doors waiting to go back to camp, waiting to get back on the lake, waiting to go back run in a field, waiting to go walk in the forest, waiting to, do all that stuff. You just can't do online, even with a virtual background. You can't do it
pitch a
online.
tent. It's not the same. It's not the same thing as lighting a fire.
No, sitting around a campfire is a magical thing, and it's the same thing with our events. Like we're running a Global Student Leadership Day next week.
Yeah.
It's actually 2 days, and we have thousands and thousands of kids coming to it and educators from all over the world.
Yeah.
But that replaced the Global Student Leadership Summit that we were supposed to run 2 weeks ago. That got postponed for a couple thousand kids and teachers. So it's amazing that we're accessing now. So what we're doing is we're accessing more countries than we've ever accessed. We're accessing more schools than ever. We have literally schools I've never heard of. We have states that are sending dozens and dozens of schools, which would not have come to our event before this, which is fantastic. But there's something amazing about being in a room with 2,000 people, and there's a speaker up there, and everyone's going, clapping and cheering and smiling and laughing, and there's that energy. No matter how good your camera is, no matter how good your internet connection is, no matter how good your microphone or circle lamp is, it's not going to replace human beings.
Yeah.
It's just not going to replace them. And I think we have to understand that, and not necessarily, like I've heard people saying, we need to embrace this virtual life, this virtual reality of what it's going to be. And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm scared. Sorry.
So I was just going to say, it just made me think of Second Life. And for all those people that wanted an alternative reality, they had that, but they also had the regular life. It's like we're thrust into this other dimension, which is very flat.
Well, we always say that young people aren't connected anymore because of those cell phones, right? Because everyone's got their phone in their hand and they've lost this connection. That, when I was a kid, blah, 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 we had to do this and this and this, and we had to create our toys out of sticks and hope. So now we've said in the last 10 years, well, now the kids are so disconnected from being on their phones. Well, what if we take away even the fact that they have no place to go and only their phones and their laptops? Yeah. What will happen to young people then if they lose the ability to even interact? That scares me. And so, I think we need to find that balance, because this is great. I can access thousands of young people, student leaders around the world, which I couldn't do any other way. But I also want to be able to connect and high-five people in real time.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I find from a management perspective, it's, you're missing on all the soft interactions and that we usually have in the office, and you can't really observe people the same way. So we've had an employee in my organization that's been really struggling with the whole teleworking things. And it took us 2 weeks to realize that there was really an issue, right? And to be present for that person and address the issue and have constructive conversation. It's not as easy doing this on media like this. And I find particularly for junior staff that really benefit from the presence of the mentors in the office and other people and having access to them. When you call in somebody, we have a Microsoft Teams at the office, so it's really easy to do video and phone chat. It's more intrusive to call somebody than to drop by in the office and get a sense if someone is busy or not, right? So it has an impact.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, very, very much so. Thank you for sharing that perspective, Richard. I wonder, Stu, when you think about leadership in students. I mean, when I went through my coaching course, executive coaching, and it was all about learning how to work effectively with leaders and have those coaching conversations, it struck me right in that learning, this is just good parenting. All of this stuff around coaching executives was all the stuff you want to take home and apply to your teenagers: curiosity, active listening, all of this positive inquiry. What are you sensing from all of your leadership work with with students to what's needed now. As Richard was saying, you know, it's hard without a presence to pick up on and observe in a certain way. What kind of different leadership skills do you think need to be at play right now?
Well, I think self-esteem is big right now. That's an overused term, but what I'm trying to say is the ability to put things in perspective and understand where your place is in that, and not get too overwhelmed by what's happening, because there's young people right now who are going to miss out on their grade 12 prom.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for some people that they couldn't be
It was
happy.
mine was a trauma. So
I was going to say, and for some people, I just said that they couldn't be happy. They're so happy they're not doing their prom.
Yeah.
But for a lot of kids, that's part of the process of the transition out of high school, good and bad. It's for some people, it's like high school wasn't good. Prom means I'm done. I'm out. Finished that chapter of my life.
Yeah.
Some people, it's like this was the best 4 or 5 years of my life, and now it's done. I don't want that to be over. I read a thing online the other day from a student. They announced, one of the school boards announced that they were officially now postponing the year until May 29th or 30th, whatever it was, 31st. They're not going to go back. Students aren't going back this year.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, well, I hope we can go back for 1 week to say goodbye to our favorite teachers and say goodbye to our favorite friends.
Yeah.
Those are grade 12 students.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I think that is a part of being a young person is understanding the perspective of where you are right now, as opposed to where you will be in 5 years.
So you said self-esteem. Is it tied into self-awareness?
Yeah, more self-awareness, I think, than self-esteem. That's why I probably should have said. Yeah, I think self-esteem is I think it's an overused thing, but self-awareness, the more aware these young people are of where they are in their lives, and the perspective of what this is in the whole story of their journey of their life, is going to be really interesting to see.
Well, I think I bring up awareness a lot as the foundation for, if you want to make a change, you have to understand where you are. And so as leaders thinking about managing through this time, it's really important to do a little bit of reflection on what are your attitudes to remote working? What are your attitudes to this whole experience? And are they valid? To question if those beliefs, which held true maybe 6 weeks ago, but now do they still hold true, or do you need a mindset shift? Would that serve you better to have a different kind of outlook on what the expectations are here? I mean, one of the things I said, as you opened off the top with the variety of experience students have and their parents and as leaders and employees, the realities every day out there are so vast and varied. How do we come to our work with a leadership mindset that says, how am I today and how can I best show up? But then how do I invite the best from everybody on my team without pressuring? And that's the one thing that I've seen in our culture for a long time. There's, you apply pressure, you get results. And pressure right now is going to break people. I think there's not room for, if there's something that's not working, so relationships that haven't been successful between partners, for example, or between kids and parents. If there's a relationship under pressure, well, this is going to test it. And so how do we show up differently to have a moment of exhale, see where we are, and then invite the best from the people we're supporting?
Yeah, 100%. We teach at camp a thing called ACE. And ACE stands for Awareness, Choices, and End Results. And so we teach this to the young kids, the youngest, our 7-year-old campers we're teaching ACE to. Actually, every camper gets a medallion in their camp that has ACE on the back of it, and then our falcon, which is our camp logo. But we always say, with better awareness, you can make better choices. With better choices, you get better end results.
Yes.
And that is a constantly changing and adapting concept. So the more awareness you have on a daily, hourly basis, you decide, especially if you're working on your own. So you have to be aware of the awareness you have of your ability to work from home, what your distractions are, way you can focus, the way you can work, the times you can work. Working from home allows you to not necessarily work 9 to 5, but work when it works best for you. If you want to get up at 6 a.m. and do work because that works for you, great. If you want to work at midnight because that's what works best for you, great. If you want to work around other schedules, great. So your awareness changes your choices, and the choices obviously change your end result. So we teach this to young people, and we teach them to be aware of what they're doing based on taking a journal and writing in their journal every day about what they like, what they dislike, what works for them, what doesn't.
You've frozen on me for a second here. can't be my internet now. It can't be.
Kate, I think you're still there. You're frozen.
Yeah, we froze there for a second, but now you're back.
I've had campers come for a decade, as it came to campus as a 9-10-year-old, go off to college, university, will send me an email and say, Stu, I used ACE this week in college or university, and I learned that when I was 10 at camp.
Yeah.
So awareness is so huge. It's the key to everything.
Yeah. And how many of us didn't go through such a rewarding camp experience? And because life is so fast paced and we're putting out fires all the time, reacting, we're not inviting that still reflection in as part of the practice. So I'm giving a workshop at 1:30 to a corporation for their individuals, and we're starting with setting intention and talking about the mental health and anxiety piece of this, which is, I was on a call with about 40 other coaches last week, and the most prevalent issue, I think 48% of coaches responded that mental health and anxiety was the top key concern for everybody.
Yeah.
And so we can't ignore that. And the interesting thing is, it's 48%. It might be extremely high now. It's always there as an issue. It's always there. I mean, we have an ongoing stress in Toronto, where I live, for financial reasons. There are a lot of companies that were putting a lot more into financial literacy for their employees because financial stress was a burden before this happened. Now that this has happened, who knows what situations people are challenged with. So if we come to the table with a commitment to having practices to recenter, to get in touch with where we are, to also fortify ourselves to bring our best energy to our day so we can make those good choices once we're aware and we have the willpower in place to do it, then we're going to get better end results. So my view is, I look at this as a whole universe pressed a pause button for us, and we're invited in this time to reflect. And the wonderful thing about it is there's nobody that this doesn't touch. It touches everybody in different ways, but there's nobody not affected. And so the invitation is there for everybody to do a redesign in the way you run your life and the way you show up for others.
Yeah, 100%. Dr. Greg Wells, who is a good friend, and he's actually speaking at our Global Student Summit. But he said something really great when we did a chat the other day, and he said, I think, because he was talking to young people, and he said, if I was a young person right now, I would find the one or two things that I absolutely love to do more than anything else in the whole world. Right. If it's a sport, if it's a writing, if it's art, if it's singing, if it's poetry, if it's, running, whatever that thing is you absolutely love to do. And I would take this time to say, that's the one thing I'm going to focus on as a young person right now, because really, realistically, I have nothing else to do. Support my family, support my friends in some way, shape, or form, but focus on one thing I can do really well. And so at the end of this, you can really come out better at that one thing or that two things. That's what Chris Hadfield said yesterday. He was talking about, you're isolated up in space, but the day you land back on Earth, which is the day that we all finish this COVID-19 stuff, but the day we land back on Earth, you have a chance to come back as a better person. And that can be with a skill or part of just who you are. Be more aware of who you are and what you love and what you want to do. So you can land on landing day, if that's June 1st or March or February 1st next year, whatever that day is that we all land. You can get back as a better person, and and figure what that is. And don't try and change everything, but find those things that, with awareness, that you love to do or want to do. And that's what I would do. That's what we tell kids.
I think that's great advice, because we are very much wrapped up in doing. But what if you could just show up better? That's a massive shift right there, and that it doesn't happen without giving it some attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things I'll say, one of the last thoughts I would say on this is I think the most important thing is to not get too don't put too much pressure on yourself about what's going to happen next. I'd worry about now, because I don't know what's going to happen next. I heard Gary Vee, I listen to his talk sometimes, and he said yesterday, it was interesting, he said, don't pressure yourself right now for a 5-year plan, because everyone had a 5-year plan 3 months ago. Irrelevant. Yeah. Right? COVID-19 changed your 5-year plan like that.
Yeah.
So worry about today and how you can best, through awareness, best be you successfully today. That's it. And then do that tomorrow, and then do that on Wednesday, and then do that on Thursday, and then do that on Friday, and eventually you get into a cadence that works for you.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, I think I suffer with an autoimmune issue, and knowing that something could come and then I can't count on things that I counted on it kind of messes with your mind a little bit.
Sure.
And that reframing to say, well, what do I need to do to take care of myself so I can continue to show up at my best? That's life-changing stuff. And so that's what I talk a lot about in my courses and the self-study stuff I put out. It's about cultivating that self-awareness and then holding true to what I call rituals, so that you do find that rhythm that you're talking about. And tuning into the body. Now, yesterday that went right out the window. I stayed in my pajamas till 6 o'clock in the evening. It was insane. It was a rainy, drizzly day, and so there's this sense of what do I need to do and how do I need to do it. One of the things I love to say is, whenever you fall off, you just get right back up on, and there's no beating yourself up, because that doesn't serve anything. Notice, and then what do you want to do? What choice you want to make right now? And that's the most powerful decision you can make, is the one you're making right now. So Stu, you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned the online summer camp. So for kids who are working, for parents who are working from home and have kids and whose plates are perhaps a little sparse and they're looking for some structure to their day, if that's ongoing still?
Yeah, we're now entering week 7 of online camp.
That's amazing. Can you just give a little brief outline of what the structure of that is, and then send a link so that people can find that?
Yeah, sure. So ylcconline.com is the website we created just for the online camp. So anybody can go.
YLCC?
Yeah, ylcconline.com.
Online.
And YLCC stands for Youth Leadership Camps Canada. That's our name of our camp for the last 29 years. So ylcconline.com. And every day at 10:30 in the morning, we do a morning reflection. We do journaling. We do joke of the day. We do a science fact of the day. We do just have some fun, and everyone shares their gratitude to the day. It's really kind of fun.
And it's a Zoom environment with everybody. You're seeing everybody?
Yeah. We have anywhere from, our quiet days, we have 30. Our busy days, we have 100 kids. And that's the beauty of it. You kind of come when you want to come.
Yeah.
Sometimes every single day, they've never missed a day ever. Which is, we have little camp warriors, we call them. They're just fantastic. And then at 3:30, we do a different thing every day. So every day at 3:30, we have a different, so we have a magic, like our friend Vin, we did a magic show. So we do different things every day. We do science facts. We do riddle contests. So every day at 3, there's something different.
I love that, because our brains need novelty. That's one thing that's, after 7 weeks being in now, it's like we are stimulated by novelty. I love that.
We'll have a craft. We'll have a craft they can do with things they have around their house. We'll do a virtual campfire, a talent show. We have Bring Your Pet to Camp Day. They show off their pet and tell us about their pet. And then at 10 o'clock at night, sorry, I'm lying to you, 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
These are all Eastern Standard Times. At 8 o'clock at night, we do a story time and end of the day reflection. And then sometimes we'll have special guests, like Peter Katz will come and sing songs for us at night.
Do you ever have adults crashing this because it's really good?
I would say we equally have parents who stand in the background behind their child. They'll stand in the background and they'll be like, I'm just cutting vegetables, but they're really listening, and they'll jump in and yell out their gratitude for the day, or they'll tell a story. We have a couple of healthcare workers who their kids come to camp, and they got involved with doing some mindfulness practices every day. They just asked if they could do it, and we said sure.
Exactly. This is like what you're talking about. That structure and those juicy contents are relevant for all ages. So kudos to you.
Monday to Friday. At 10:30, 3:30, and 8 p.m. at night. Those are the 3, and we do it every single day, and we've done it now this is our 7th week.
And at 3:30, how long are the sessions? So if we have parents out there that are thinking, I need something for my kids to do so that I can actually manage this piece of work or this thing that I need to accomplish. When you're meeting in the morning at, you said 10:30?
10:30, yeah.
10:30. For how long is that first meeting?
Each one goes 30 to 45 minutes.
Perfect. See how amazing is that? You can get a big chunk of stuff done if your kids are really engaged and excited to be part of something. So ylcconline.com. And then next week, May 6th.
One more thing, I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I want to comment on that parent thing you just said. I had a parent last week message me and say, without camp, I would lose my sanity, because her son every day goes, and for 45 minutes, 3 times a day, she gets her own things done,
Right.
takes a deep breath, probably pour herself a glass of wine. I'm not judging, whatever it is, but gets that time as an adult to themselves, and their son just loves the experience and loves the camp. So yeah, camp is good for parents. It's good for kids. And that's anybody from, we really kind of say 7 years of age and up.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay. That's a fabulous opportunity for anyone with kids. And if you can jump on and listen in the background, you'll be enriched as well. And so next week, you've taken this massive in-person event of 2,000 people and turned it into an online experience for student leaders around the world. I'm encouraging my kids to jump into this May 6th and 7th. Tell us about that and where people can find information about that.
Yeah, so that was just, the world is so different now. Things can change like that, excuse me, as we've learned with the COVID-19 itself. But anyway, what we did was we had this big global student leadership summit that we do every second year. We have about 15 countries come, about 2,000 youth and educators into London, Ontario, big convention center. It's pretty amazing. So we had to postpone it this year. So we got talking, our team, and we said, how can we give something to all those teachers and students, just to kind of like say, hey, we're sorry you missed it, but here's a little treat. Here's something you can just for 20 minutes or half an hour. So I reached out to one of our keynote speakers for the event. We have 40 speakers at the actual event every year. People who specialize working with youth or kind of environment, because it's a global thing. Anyway, long story short, Clint Pulver was one of our keynotes, and a mutual friend.
Yeah.
And he built this big studio in his basement. Clint plays the drums.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Excuse me. And I'm not sick. I'm choking on my words. And so I said, hey, that's a great thing. Could you do like a 20-minute like shout out to the kids, play some drums, and we'll just send it little video out to all of the schools and all the teachers they can give to their kids. And teachers are also looking for curriculum stuff right now. So I was like, there's a half an hour curriculum right there. Boom. Right. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. 100%. Like that. No questions asked. Absolutely love to. I was like, great. He goes, we could probably get a couple more too to do it. And I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, maybe we could. So I reached out to a lot of speakers I know who've worked with kids, and I said, this is what I'm doing. And it was like, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. So it was like people who specialize in working with youth, Olympic athletes, musicians, and they all
the lineup is phenomenal.
Yeah, and it's growing. Like I'm trying to hold off now because now we're getting even more people wanting to be part of it. Like people who aren't speakers, but like people who are in the other parts of the world. And I thought we'd have a couple hundred, but now we have thousands of people. Thousands.
Well, it speaks to a lot. That speaks to you, Stu, and the richness of the network and how generous you are. This is all of that coming back, and in the spirit of giving out to the students and the next generation of leaders. So
yeah, and it's 100% free. So is camp. They're all free.
Yeah.
And the reason why, I'll tell you why if you want to know why I do it free in a second, but so it's all free. And what I was going to tell you, there's something else that's going to be great behind it. But we are selling swag. So to be completely transparent, we are selling swag that school kids can buy for themselves to wear. And that is going to fund some of the costs because we are paying a platform, a company to actually manage the action. It got too big for me. It got too big in the Zoom call. It just got crazy.
Right. Yeah.
And so I got so scared that it wasn't going to work. Because
nothing like when technology doesn't work. That's not stressful.
Right, exactly. So I thought, well, this is why I didn't charge anything too. This is my theory. I was telling this to my friend the other day because they were asking, how are you monetizing this? And I said, well, I'm actually not monetizing this. And I said, here's my theory. I can run large scale events all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I run real in-person events.
Mm-hmm.
You were supposed to speak in a month at Epic, which is my favorite program that we run. Honestly, it's amazing. And so I can run those things till date forever. This I can't. I've never done before. I've done Zoom meetings. I've done small calls with 20, 30 people, like with my staff and, camp staff and things like that, but I've never done it. So I figured I'm going to do this. I'm not going to charge anything. I have no right to charge anything because if it's a horrible failure and I try to charge $10 to go or something, people are like, Stu did this horrible thing, trying to get $10 out of us. And that was silly. And that's not what I want to do. So I figured I'm just going to do it because I want to give kids something. I don't care about the money. And if it goes really well, if I try to do something in the future, I might go, oh, do that thing. It was really awesome. And they'll trust me.
You know what? I think honestly, for everybody that's in small business and you've got the autonomy to figure out what to do, this moment of giving back is very powerful. And even as a leader, how you show up now is going to be remembered. This is going to be one of those times in life that, do you remember what was it like for you in COVID-19 time, right? There's going to be a way of showing up, which is all around being the person you want to be, and being remembered for the things that you can give, because in the giving is the getting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sure your cup is mighty full about now.
This will be those, the crazy stories that grandparents tell their children about how things were during this horrible time and how they survived. This will be that story for our young people right now. That when they have kids one day, they'll tell their COVID-19 stories as if it's the Great Depression or World War II. Like, it's going to be their moment. It's going to be their story of how their whole lives got turned upside down. And I don't even think I don't think it's the same thing. And I'm not trying to compare World War II to COVID-19, but I mean,
different. But you make an interesting point though, because comparing suffering doesn't really get you anywhere.
No, and I don't mean to. I just mean it's like, this is a moment in time that the whole world came to a pause. Yeah. And that's never happened that I know of before, outside of massive events like wars, but this is like, it's different, right? And I think it's not the same, because we have an opportunity, a lot of us, and some of us aren't as lucky, but to actually take a hold of this time that we're on our own and do something really good with it, and do something really, and make a difference, and evaluate what you love and evaluate what you don't love, and make those changes accordingly, especially for young people. My wife always says, and she's a teacher, she said, now's the time to ask yourself, as a young person, who do you really miss? Right? Like, as a student, who do you really miss at school? And who are the ones you were just hanging out with to be part of a group, or to try and be popular, or try and fit in? And who are the ones you actually miss, that treated you well, that you felt joy from, that you felt connection with, that built you up and didn't bring you down? And that's a great question that she asked, I think, her students. And I asked it of our campers one day. I said, who do you really miss? Yeah. And I think that's really important.
I don't know if you know Marcus Buckingham, but so he's behind a lot of the Strengths Finder work, and worked with Gallup for a long time, and now is a speaker, a fabulous speaker actually. And he's doing some really great work on Instagram Live. But he talked last week about your Strong Life team, and figuring out who in your group of people around you provides support, and knowing who those people are, and really thinking about, who can I call on if I need something for emotional support? Spending some time on thinking about who those people are, and reaching out and reconnecting and making sure that you're there for each other is really worthwhile.
Yeah, I think we've gotten to a point now with social media that we have these 5,000 followers or 5,000 friends on Facebook, because we're older. So we have Facebook. That's still cool because we're older. But for young people, and it's all numbers, right? Quantity of followers, quantity of likes. And I think that this is showing that what really matters is those that we really want in our lives.
Yeah, quality. Yeah.
Well, I got to go.
Well, thank you, Stu. Thank you for, did you share the website for the Student Leadership, the Global Student Leadership Summit Day?
Global Student Leadership, I can't type, Student Leadership Day.com.
Thank you.
And the other one is ylcconline.com for the camp.
Fabulous.
And that's it. That's all there is.
So thank you, Stu, for not only this fabulous conversation and sharing all of your insights. Thank you for totally making it a soft landing at the top of the hour when technology went sideways.
So friends help friends, Claire.
Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to chat with you. Thanks so much for being a guest here today.
Let's do this again.
I'd love to. Okay, take care. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.